Welcome to Guest of the Year. I'm the host. My name's Mike. This week's prize pack is provided by former Guest of the Year champ ByJocelyn's Etsy shop, ByJocelyn. ByJocelyn features tie-dye garments and shirts with beautiful designs on them, both dead-centric and not. Jocelyn's impeccable taste permeates each design. Thanks so much to Jocelyn for doing the prize pack. You can check out her shop via the link in the show notes. All right, here's how the game works. We'll play the first part of a Grateful Dead live track, and each contestant will use the messaging system to silently guess which year their performance is from. Contestants who are all on a video conference together can message in their guesses at any time during the clip or in the 10 seconds after it concludes. Whoever is furthest from the correct year is eliminated. The last two Deadheads standing will hear 3 tracks, and who's ever closest to the correct year over the 3 songs will advance to the semifinals. We'll meet the Deadheads in a moment, but first, without further ado, the Grateful Dead.
Catch a few wings, baby, down under the bed. Then you head back to Tennessee again. Tennessee, Tennessee, there ain't no place I'd rather be. Baby, won't you carry me back to Tennessee? I run into Charlie phone. Black my, you know he kicked my dog. My doggy turned to me and he said, let's head back to Tennessee again.
The guesses are in. It was Tennessee Jed at the Greek Theater in Berkeley, California on May 22nd, 1982. 3 people got 1982. Nate, Cooper, and Garrin. Garrin is 50 from Brooklyn. He won episodes 26 and 27. Garrin, that's a really nice pull on an early 80s track. How'd you figure out 82?
Jerry sounded like a little grizzled, so right away I'm like, it's 80s. We had Brent in there, of course. That's what I'm focusing right away. Really, first thing is keyboard tones for me generally, but it just had 80s written all over it. It was just a little bit sloppy, like high energy, but a little bit sloppy and just loosey goosey. Early 80s Dead. All the tones were there.
So how did you narrow it down from early 80s to exactly 82?
Something about that piano tone, because like in like 80, Brent was using like Rhodes a lot, and that was more of like an electric piano kind of sound. You could actually hear the percussive hit of the keyboard, and Phil's bass was just really round and unprocessed sounding. There's no MIDI in there at all, and not a lot of digital stuff going on. So
great, you're on to the next round, Garrin. Joining you is Nate. Nate is 22 from York, Pennsylvania. He won episodes 9 and 10. Nate, anything you want to add to Garrin's breakdown there?
No, he's pretty spot on. I knew it was early 80s by the low Brent, but I knew it wasn't 79, 80. I don't know the keyboards as well as Garrin does, but I could tell it just sounds a little rougher around the edges compared to like a 79, 80 early with Brent. They're kind of just letting it all hang out, and it screamed a little bit later, early 80s. So I went with 82.
So they're playing looser than when he just joined the band.
Yeah, like he's a little more comfortable. He's not like trying to hit the melodies as they're written. He's like kind of doing his own thing a little more now.
Ooh, I like that. Awesome, Nate, you're on the next round. As is Cooper, who is 21 from Deep River, Connecticut. He won episode 8. He had a heroic run on the teams tournament recently. Cooper, welcome back. You also guessed 82. Why 82?
Thank you. Yeah, for me, it was similar for Garrin, where I kind of had to listen in, and Brent was the giveaway. It's like those first 3 or 4 years of the 80s, it seems like he's like switching up his keyboard sound each year. And 82 is the one where like he has that kind of flat sounding piano and it kind of gets on my nerves. And I was glad to see the episode, the Deadcast, it also gets on Charlie Miller's nerves as well, because they had him on there for the Madison Square Garden box set. And he was like, yeah, I can't stand that dead piano. So I wouldn't say I can't stand it, but that was the giveaway because that's the one year where I listened to that and I'm like, that's not really doing it for me.
All hail Charlie Miller. Cool, Cooper. You're on to the next round. As is Marty, who guessed 83. Dean is odd man out at 85. I'm sorry, Dean. Let's go to Marty. Marty is the victor of the Bad Connection Redemption bracket. Ironically, the Bad Connection Redemption bracket was marred with miscommunications and bad connections, but that made it not really a full episode. But Marty won. He is here, and he is on to the next round. Marty is 57 from Yonkers. Marty, 1 year off at 83. Your connection seems strong. Why 83?
I was waffling actually between late 80s because of Jerry's kind of, rough voice, and early 80s, which kind of sent me that way because of Brent's playing. So it brought me back down there. And, 82, 83, that was kind of, where I was, starting to see shows on a regular basis, though I surely wasn't at the Greek. But, it was where I was at the time when I really got into it. So I kind of felt like I was, back in the beginning for me.
We're on the next round, Marty. Dean won episode 22. He's 63 from Los Altos, California. Why 85?
I was kind of thinking 82, 83, and then at the last second, I just changed my year. And second guessing yourself never seems to be a good thing in this game,
Was there like a deceptive clue that led you astray?
Not really, but to me, the sound was it wasn't really balanced super well, and seemed like kind of a lot of highs or something. So it wasn't as crisp and clear as I was as to hear everything. And I saw a lot of shows around 82. I didn't go to that one, but quite a few on the West Coast then.
I find myself listening to a lot of those Greek theater shows in the early 80s. Did you attend any of those?
I did. Like the next year, I happened to be visiting in town to run the Beta Breakers race in San Francisco. Oh, no. I was in town to go see the Dead. And then my friend said, hey, you want to run this race across San Francisco the next day? I go, sure. So I went to the Dead shows. And then I think it's Sunday morning, I ran Beta Breakers across town and then went to another show.
Did you really run the Beta Breakers, or was it kind of like a hungover jog?
Not running fast, that's for sure.
Well, Dean, we appreciate you coming back, and now at least you can go all in rooting for your son Jeremy to win it all.
He's a musician of the family. I'm definitely going to root for him. Yeah.
All right. Thanks a lot, Dean. So Garrin, Cooper, Marty, and Nate are on to the next round. Let's go to song number 2. The guesses are in. It was Loose Lucy. at Boston Garden on June 28th, 1974. So Cooper and Garrin got it. Cooper, how'd you diagnose 1974?
So I was racking my brain for what album that song is on, and they just came out with the Week of the Flood, Angel's Share, and I was like, okay, I know it's not there. It's got to be on whatever the next one is, Mars Hotel. But every other version of Loose Lucy that I've heard from that period, they slow it down, kind of like they do Friend of the Devil, not to the same level, but that one was awesome. I had never heard them play it like fast like they do the studio version, so I was like, it's got to be fresh off of when they wrote it and when they released it.
Nicely said. Garrin, you also nailed 1974. What'd you hear there?
It sounded like sort of a early version, like they were still working it out. It sounded a lot like the Wall of Sound to me. There's some really distinctive sonic attributes of the Wall of Sound, the way the microphones sound. Yeah, I mean, I had already pretty much narrowed it down to 73 or 74 just because of the sound of it. So I can really pick out those Wall of Sound years.
Nate and Marty both guessed 73, so everyone's on to the next round. Nate, why 73?
There's really only two options there. It's 73 or 74, given when the song came out on the Mars Hotel. I went 73 just because I swore they played it the whole year, and it sounded early, and I thought there might be more of a sample size than 74 because they take hiatus in October. So I figured maybe I'll get a couple more months out of 73. So really just playing the game. I figured something like this might happen. We'd all kind of be jumbled around the same 2 years.
Nate, your recollection of dates is up there with the top guest of the year contestants. Very well done.
Yeah, I might not be as good at the music as other people. Cooper and Garrin here, they're calling stuff out that I would never get. But I got the timeline. It's more historical where people are when they play certain songs. That helps as well.
Especially in the 60s, which no one gets. Like, you've got the TC range down, you've got the Mickey dates down. Very well done, as always, Nate. Marty also gets 73. Anything you want to add to the 73 breakdown?
Ditto everybody. I mean, it had to be 73, 74, and I just went with the 73 as that's one of my favorite years.
Right on. Well, on to round 3 with the same 4. Let's play the third song.
Brother used to kill a hunter back in 1969. Before the killing was done, his inheritance was mine. His brother was the one to wait before we repent. Esau gave me sleeplessness and a peaceful land. My father favored Esau, who was eager to obey all the bloody wild commandments the old man shot his way. But all his fever getting away, my brother failed at war. He staggered home, found me in the door. Esau skates on mirrors anymore. Meets his pale reflection at the door. Yet sometimes it's not a dream. You're still that hairy man.
The guesses are in. My Brother Esau at Madison Square Garden on September 16th, 1987. Garrin was the only one who got it. How'd you diagnose 1987?
Well, I think that most of the In the Dark material was debuted in 82 or 83. So that's your starting point. Mickey was pretty heavy on the cowbell, which is something he was doing at that time period. A lot of, more cowbell. There was always more cowbell. And Bobby was playing that slide and it had sort of a loose feel, felt like a big room.
You're on the next round, Garrin. Next closest was Cooper. Cooper guessed 1986. Why 86?
This is like one of my favorite. It's not a forgotten song, but like it's like one of my favorites that didn't make it to like the super hot like 89, 90 period. I wish it did because I love that song. But so I was thinking the earlier version, there are some lyrics that are different. He says something about like real estate in LA and like the earlier versions in the like 83, 84. And this definitely sound like they had the song more together than the ones in 83 where he's like, Bob is just trying to figure out the words. So it sounded like they had it together. And then I kind of just hedged it with 86 because I was thinking if it was an earlier version, I wouldn't want to be way out on 87. But thinking about it, it definitely sounded more like 87 because 86 is like very sort of crackly. It seems like most of the recordings I've heard just aren't as full sounding as that one was. But I love that song. Love it.
Really? You're a E-style truther?
I am, yeah. I think it would have been cool if Dead and Co had busted that one out. I know that Bobby plays it with Wolf Rose, but something about it. I just think it's so quirky, so Bob, and I like that just that way they come into it. And Brent on the organ is just love it.
I love this tune too. I totally agree with your sentiment about it. It's just this weird black sheep or something of the repertoire, that had a very short shelf life for some reason. And Bob often complains that with certain songs that would go away that he just felt like he couldn't deliver the lyrics. He didn't really understand what the song was about. It is a very odd lyric. It's like this allegory about, what is it, his brother in Vietnam. And there's one quote where he was like, I was on stage just going, what the fuck am I singing about? So I know that he struggled with that. There were other songs through the years that did that too, like Black-Throated Wind, he put aside for a long time, and other ones, and tried to rewrite the lyrics. And I think the new version of Esau has some different lyrics too. I don't know.
Yeah, he changed the year, like the way he plays it with like Rat Dog and Wolf Roses. He says year 2009 instead of 1969. He's always changing stuff around like that. But yeah, no, I love that one. Definitely a black sheep for sure.
Does Gratefully Yours bust that one out, Garrin?
We do that. Yep. And people are always like, what? Oh, wow. Not many people are hoping a Dead cover band plays that.
No, but I love that. Just to have something, beyond the core set list. That's just awesome that you guys throw that in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Marty guessed 85 and Nate guessed 1990. So Marty's on to the next round. Nice work, Marty. Why'd you guess 85?
Well, My Brother Esau is actually my favorite Dead song. And I've seen it, I think 6 or 7 times, which, they did play it a lot, but that's a lot for, that song because they didn't play it all the time. And it wasn't in heavy rotation. But to me, it sounded like it was from SPAC. And, just that echoey sound. And, I knew it wasn't from when they first broke it out because it was very, kind of falling apart in the beginning. And it sounded like it was definitely getting better. I didn't think it was that late 87 when they kind of, shelved it. It is one of those great songs. And I love it when a tribute band does My Brother Esau. I mean, that just goes to show you're digging deep and, it's a funky tune. It definitely got very funky at the end. And, like Cooper said, I wish it had gotten a little further because it really could have gotten really funky.
So if My Brother Esau is your favorite song, what's your second favorite song?
Stella Blue.
So Stella Blue over The Do.
Yeah, I mean, I love it all. I mean, let's face it. I mean, there's not many songs I can say I'd rather do without it. But Stella Blue again, I mean, it kills me. I mean, every time it just, and when O'Teal does it with Dead and Company, forget it. I'm just, I'm like a puddle.
You're on the next round, Marty. Nice work. Nate, you guessed 1990. Yeah, why 1990?
Yeah, I feel like the odd man out here. I wouldn't call this anywhere close to my favorite song. I
Someone had to zig back to the mean here. All right, let's hear it.
I don't listen to barely any 84 to 86, and I've been trying to edge my way into it, trying to push the 82, 83, 88, 87. And so I actually was listening to 87 the other day and heard this song. And so I was considering guessing 87 because I had just heard 80, but I figured that would be a dumb move. Apparently not. And so I couldn't really, so I went back to the keys and I was trying to figure out if it was Brent or if it was kind of around the transition period, because I'm not familiar with this song really at all, and wasn't sure if they kept playing it like sparingly. Apparently not. Um, but I thought there might be a chance. I heard two different key tones in there, so I guess 90 just to be close in case it was Bruce and Vince for some reason. But they just not familiar at all with mid 80s or particularly like In the Dark album songs. So kind of just hit my weakness here. I was close, but no cigar on this one.
What compels you to check out the mid 80s? Is it personal edification, trying to do better at Guess the Year, or just curiosity or like guilt for not listening to a time period?
Well, sometimes I think I just listen to the same stuff too much. And so like if I were to think, I sometimes just think about it from an outsider's perspective. If they looked at me listening to like 60s up until 71 every day, all only that, like I could see that being a problem. So I've been trying to branch out. Like I'll always do my 60 show of the day, and then I'll try to slip in one other just random, whether it's late 70s, whether it's 80s, 90s. Um, just trying to expand my musical breadth.
Great answer. Nate, your Guess the Year fan favorite. Appreciate you coming back yet again. We'll obviously we'll have you back on soon.
Thank you. Yeah, good luck, everyone.
All right. We've got Cooper, Marty, and Garrin competing for 2 spots in the finals. Let's hear the next song.
Can't talk to you without talking to me. We're guilty of the same old thing. Thinking a lot about less and less, and forgetting the love we bring.
The guesses are in. It was Althea at Soldiers and Sailors Memorial Hall in Kansas City, everyone's favorite venue, on December 11th, 1979. Cooper was closest, 1980. Why 1980?
So first, I just gotta say, Phil was digging in, and as someone who plays bass, that was making me very happy. So I will be going back, and I think I've heard that show before. My uncle has gave me all of his old CDs, and so I believe that that's one of them. But I'm guilty of playing the game because something that Garrin had noted earlier with that super bell, like percussive belly Rhodes. I was like, I know that was a thing he had in '79 and also a little bit in '81. So I was like, we're gonna split it straight down the middle because that's just I thought would be my best bet. But I do think that super pointy sounding bass was more prominent in '79.
So when Phil's digging deep like that, what percentage of that is the mix? What percentage of it is Phil like digging deep?
So I did not have a ton of experience with playing live, so I don't really know. I just know that if I was right there, I would be a very, very happy guy. And it hasn't quite gotten to that level the times that I've seen him at the Cap. I mean, it's different, and he's older now. But there were the last time I saw him back in March when they had Rick from Goose. There were a couple big bombs that I felt right in my chest cavity and made me very happy. So
cool. Well, Marty and Garrin both guessed 81. Garrin, why 81?
You know, to choose 79 for some of that material, it was a risk because some of it was debuted then, and I thought to myself, I think some of it was 80 onward. I know, you know, that's definitely the hot and heavy period for those tunes, you know, 79 to 83 or whatever, that go to heaven material. But I thought to myself, the album arrangement of Althea is much faster than that. It's like bump, 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 boom, bam, dum, you know? And so that was like super heroined out, so slow. And so to my way of thinking, that particular progression, something going from perky and fast to slower and more opioided, would be as time progressed, not the other way around. I mean, generally that's the way it works with Jerry. Like he generally, over time, things get slower, not faster. But, you know, to your point about Phil and how that sound, I think a lot of, you know, how you get these particular sounds, why does Phil sound so huge on that particular tape and stuff? I mean, it has everything to do with what the source of the tape is. That sounded to me like a Matrix, if not a complete board. I'm not sure.
I think it was a board, yeah.
Okay, it just sounded like there was a really hot direct signal coming right from his amp, you know, and you hear a lot of that fret noise, you know, that's a lot of that growly, and you could hear his pick on the almost hitting the pickup kind of thing, you know. So yeah, it sounds like you're sitting right in front of him.
Well, you live to fight another day, Garrin, because Marty also guessed 1981. Marty, what were you hearing there?
Well, I was struggling with the bass as well, trying to figure out where that fit in the years. And I don't know if it was just that version of the song where he just was pounding out and where it was in the set, perhaps, where he was just digging deep. But I knew it was an early version. It definitely wasn't the more perkier version as Garrin, you know, brought out when they, you know, recorded it, and it did become a more perkier version. And it felt early. So, you know, I kind of guessed 81. I didn't think it was 79 because, you know, that was like right when Brent got in the band, and, you know, it sounded too good, actually. I hate to say it that way, but, you know, it sounded very well done, probably because they might have just been in the studio. And it just sounded, you know, more progressive than it was if it was, you know, just starting.
Cool. Same situation. Let's hear the next song.
Spanish lady come to me, she lays on me this road. The rainbows spiral round and round, they tremble and explode. That's a smoke greater than mine, I like to blown away. With the heat come round and busted me for smiling on a cloudy day. Coming, coming, coming around, coming around. Coming all around, coming around, coming all around, coming all around.
So it was the other one at Fillmore East in New York City on November 16th, 1970. The closest was Marty. He guessed 1969. Marty, why 69?
You know, I was going with 70. I really was. I was going to say it was Fillmore. I I don't know what made me go down to 69. I think it was the sound of Pigpen's voice. I think it sounded really strong. That's it. I mean, I don't know what else to say about it. It was definitely 69, 70, that sound.
Well, Marty, it was a heroic effort, but unfortunately, these zombies both guessed 1968, so you've not killed either of them. Cooper, why 68?
There's a great other one that's from '69 that's on the So Many Roads box set, and that's the one that I think of when I think of the early, like the other one of that time period. I knew you were gonna throw some shit in here like this, like that was like at it. But so I guess what I forget is that the band still had that like frantic from the case of the other one, not for all songs, but that super like primal feral energy. Even in 1970, when then they go to the studio and then they're like, let's write Box of Rain and Broke Down Pallets, like, so I guess it's just the contrast of live versus, you start to think of them writing songs like Direwolf and stuff going into the early 70s. But that was a great one.
Cooper, that is an awesome observation. Just about, reconciling Primal Dead in an era that's more melodic. Awesome. Garrin, anything you want to add to the 68 breakdown?
Well, more than 70 breakdown. It was such an interesting year. There's that show, that Harper College show, that to me like personifies what you guys are talking about. It's like this like raging psychedelic shit, and then these ballads and the country stuff side by side. I mean, they shed a lot of the more psychedelic stuff as the years went by, but that sort of study in contrasts became the way they constructed their shows for the rest of their career, and that really started in 1970 when Jerry started introducing those simpler tunes.
Okay, same situation.
Delilah was a woman, she was fun and fair. Knew she had good looks, got those cool black hair. Delilah, she gave those Samson's mind. When first he saw this woman, Lord, she looked so fine. Delilah, she sat down on old Samson's knee. Said, tell me where your strength lies. If you please and shit. Spoke so kind, talk so fair. Samson said, Delilah, you cut out my hair. You can shave my hair, twist my hand. My strength coming natural as any old man. If I had my way, if I had my way, if I had my way, I would tear this old building down. Will you read about Samson? Oh, from his works, he was the strongest man that ever had lived on earth. And one day while Samson was walking along, looked down on the ground, he saw an old jawbone. And he stretched out his arm, got a chain, broke like thread. When he got to moving, 10,000 was dead. If I had my way, if I had my way, if I had my way, I would tear this old building down.
Killing me.
All right. Samson and Delilah, Rupp Arena, Lexington, Kentucky, April 21st, 1978. Cooper and Garrin both got it. Marty's fantastic run comes to an end. Garrin, what were we here and why 78?
So that song was played like every second show in 1977 when it was introduced. I mean, that was, if you look at the set list from that time period that people complain about now, I mean, there were a lot of repeats. There were some repeats even from night to night. And Bobby, he didn't have, as many tunes. So they were slogging some of those things a lot. Estimated Prophet, Samson and Delilah, a lot every couple nights. And I bring that up just because that version to me seemed a little looser, a little bit more like they've been playing this tune a lot for the last couple of years. You know what I mean? It just felt a little tossed together. It's not like one of those ultra tight versions. And I was waiting to hear Jerry's solo to really make my final decision, and it cut off right as he's about to start because he had this really super raw 78 distortion sound that he used to use. It got, harsher and fucking more dug in as the time went on.
So do you prefer 78 to 77?
78 is inconsistent, but when it's on, it's really on, in my opinion. 77, I know it's everybody, lauds 77 and there's so much to love there, but to my ears, it's a little bit consonant. It's not, I like dirty. I like a little sloppy. I like ragged. I like to feel like they're on the edge of falling apart sometimes. And 77 was just like almost perfection. And I think, people respond to that. Yeah.
Cool. You're on to the finals, Garrin. Joining you is Cooper. Cooper, you also pulled the 78. How did you distinguish it from probably 77, I'm guessing?
For me, it was definitely sort of what Garrin outlined with 78 just has that edge that 77 doesn't necessarily have. I believe that's also 78 is when Jerry went back in and brought Wolf back in to be used. At least that's what I'm picturing him using, in Egypt and everything like that. 78 is not a year I listen to a ton. Usually, if I want to get gritty, I go 80s. I feel like I just like Brent's gritty more than I like Keith was super quiet in this. It was very hard to see him. His piano just wasn't as bright sounding at the end to me. Not for everything, but just for certain things. So for this one, I was like, okay, we hear Donna, Keith is low, and Bob is shouting. So I was like, all right, I just think 78 is what has all of those things.
Nicely done. Marty, you went from the Bad Connection Redemption bracket to song 6 of the Tournament of Champions against some of the stiffest competition guests of the year in the greater Grateful Dead internet has to offer. Congratulations. Why'd you go for 77?
Well, I'll tell you, I had 78 originally, and I was listening for Jerry's as well, Jerry's lead. And as it was fading out, I thought it sounded clean. And I said, oh, that's 77. And I erased 8 and put 7 in and hit enter. And that was my, they, like Garrin said, they played that song, God, so much. It's crazy. But, it's hard to pick. Really, it's so, I love listening to everybody's, dissection of every song. It's so amazing how all of us have our different ways of pulling songs apart and figuring out, where this came from and who sounded this way and that way. It's just, I can't think of any other band that you would do this with, even like the Allman Brothers or something like that. I don't know if I could, you maybe could pick years, but, decades perhaps, but not individual years, I don't think. But I just love this. I appreciate being able to get on again. And this was just fantastic. I wish you guys both the best.
It was a pleasure having you on, Marty. I know you put on Dead events. Do you have any you want to plug?
Well, we do what we call Deadville at the bitter end, the last Tuesday of every month. So, come down any last Tuesday of a month and you'll see great Grateful Dead music. Garrin's played there before with Gratefully Yours a couple of times. And, I'm trying to bring in some newer bands that I haven't brought in before. We also have a kind of a house band, I'll call it, the Ripple All-Stars. And they play the second Wednesday of the month at the bitter end as well. So if you're wanting to see some Grateful Dead music, Bitter End has 2 nights dedicated a month. Come on down and check us out.
So good to chat again, Marty. Thanks for coming on. Okay, Cooper and Garrin are on to the finals. Again, it's 3 songs. You want to be as few years off as possible, obviously, over the 3 songs. It's an aggregated score. Let's start the finals.
Truth he loved him. Oh, the truth he loved him. She had sweethearts of plenty and men of high degree, but none Jack the sailor her true love there could be. Oh, her true love there could be. Now Jack is gone a-sailing, trouble on his mind. He's left his native country and his daughter behind. Oh,
The guesses are in. It was a Jackarow, a song that I wish I could play every week, but that's not the way it works in Guess of the Year. At Hampton Coliseum on March 5th, 1992. So Garrin was closer. He guessed 1991. He's 1 point off. Coop guessed 1990, so he got 2 points on that one. We'll start with Garrin. Why 1991?
Bruce on piano. Like, it's not my favorite time period because it's very, to my ear, it's very cluttered. There's so much going on, so much overplaying. Jerry sounds a little nasally. And, you know, Bruce had I thought Bruce had sort of, wasn't 92 the year that he sort of left? Or was that 93?
No, he left in 92, yeah.
Yeah, so I thought to myself, well, it can't be 92 because he left, but I guess he played some shows in 92, so that must have been one of them. Yeah, so that was sort of my way of thinking.
Great. Cooper, you guessed 1990. Why 90?
At first, playing didn't sound like Brent in terms of the actual playing, but what Bruce was using, where it wasn't like, sometimes Bruce has that beautiful sort of grand piano sound that you also get from Keith. This was not that. This sounded like he was playing on something that was a different type of keyboard, was not necessarily the big grand piano. So that's where I thought it sounded like Brent, but I think it would have sounded a little bit tighter if it was Brent. And then also I did hear that keyboard clutter there at the end. So I went with 90 because I thought it could have also been them struggling to accommodate the two keys in fall of 90, going into that new period. It was a good, sneaky one. Very sneaky.
Someone emailed me the other day, told me to do like the 86 Bruce show or something. I was like, dude, that's
Brutal.
so fucked up. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think he was on accordion at that point, so I don't know. That would have been easy. Maybe.
Same with like the Carter Finley one from 90. He's on accordion, yeah.
Okay. Cooper's got 2 points. Garrin's got 1. So Garrin is up by 1 point. We have 2 songs left. Let's play the next song. I Know Your Rider at the Cleveland Music Hall on March 3rd, 1981. Cooper was closer. He guessed 1980. Garrin guessed 1979. Cooper, what'd you hear there?
So what immediately made me think of is it's like May 16th, 17th, 1980. They did release Go to Nassau, I think is what it's called. And that was what it sounded closest to. I was like, fuck, it could be 81, but I was like, I'm just going with what I know. It sounds like it could be a cousin of the show that I was thinking of. And so I just stuck it at 1980. It's tough because, 79, 80, and 81, Jerry's using the same guitar the whole way through. Those are really 3 really tough years, I think. So again, great pick.
Well, thanks. I'm kind of drilling you guys with the turn of the decade there. Garrin guessed 1979, and he's shaking his head. What were you thinking, Garrin?
Yeah, it's all the years combined, as they say. I guess the reason I veered towards Brent, it being Brent's first year, was, it was mellower than I associate 80s I Know You Riders. That was pretty laid back, so I took a risk.
Well, it's 3-3 going into the final song. But before we do that, Garrin, what's going on with Queer Deadheads and Gratefully Yours?
Well, Gratefully Yours, we have had a really busy summer, and we're continuing on through the fall. We're playing a lot, which is very cool. We just did a 3-night run. We're sort of like challenging ourselves to do like 3 or 4 night runs without any repeats. So, we just finished one of those. And we don't have a set list, as I've told you, Mike, before. So that's also like, it's not like we're sitting backstage going line item, trying to construct this stuff meticulously. We're just remembering from night to night and just making our way through it. So anyway, that's really cool. And Queer Deadheads, there was just this big gathering in Catskill, New York, actually, and a band that was sort of the predecessor to Gratefully Yours called the Deadbeats were sort of the house band for this event, and I actually played guitar with them all afternoon because their other guitar player was not around. So, and that was really cool. It was like a combination gay pride, Grateful Dead thing, which, as we've talked about, rarely those worlds don't generally meet. So, it was a really nice afternoon. Yeah.
How difficult is that to step in with some people you've never played before? Obviously, same catalog, but different players. How difficult is that transition?
In terms of the catalog, yeah, not so much. Although as we're discovering, just talking about this, there's so many different arrangements of stuff. But generally, you can just, when you're sitting in with the band, the approach you should really take is you're the guest, and just sort of go along for the ride and take cues from people when they want you to step out and stuff like that. So that band already has a lead guitar player, so we were basically 2 lead guitar players trying to do the weave.
Garrin, I gotta know, what was the coolest deep cut to come out of those recent multiple night stands?
Well, we did do Esau. I know that. That's like
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we did On the Road Again. We did Crazy Fingers, which is not common for us at all. Stuff like that.
All right, sorry, I'm kind of grilling you here, Garrin, but I've always wanted to know, how do you play lead with another lead guitarist?
Well, you need some very sensitive people to pull that off, as I know Marty knows. So it's basically the right combination of personalities would be the first way I would answer that question. And it's a sensibility. It's not. You really need to be steeped in this sort of whole approach, I think, to have 3 leads going on at once and have it work. I mean, there's an analog in like the Rolling Stones. They always talk about the weave, Keith Richards and Ron Wood, and they do it to a degree where neither one is playing rhythm, neither one's playing lead, right? It's just they're sharing it throughout. People ask me like who my favorite guitar player is, and I always say Bob Weir, and everyone's like, what? Why? And because, as Jerry said, he carved out his own. Nobody sounds like Bob Weir except people who are copying him now, but nobody, that's an absolutely original style that he came up with. That's somewhere between lead and somewhere between rhythm. And essentially his guitar style alone is sort of the like analogy for how people should be playing together. Sometimes lead, sometimes rhythm. And Phil and those guys always say you should be doing more listening than playing. I don't know how often that actually happens, but that's the goal.
Brilliant. Thanks, Garrin. Yeah, so it's 3-3. This is for the spot in the semifinals. Let's hear the song.
Ever got there
All right, the guesses are in. It was Big Railroad Blues at Hoffines Pavilion in Houston, Texas on November 19th, 1972, Fall 72 show. And fucking hell, both these guys got it. Very impressive. We're going to overtime. Cooper, what tipped you off to 72, man?
I just love the way that Jerry squeals on Alligator. I just think it's the best. It might be my favorite. I don't know. But it's something there. I just love him. And now I play bass. I'm not a guitar player, but it's like whatever pinchy thing that he's doing there. I just love when he does that. So there was that, and Keith's keyboard being eloquent as always. And the vocals didn't sound like they had any of that sort of lisp that they get from the dual microphones of 73, 74. So I just thought I was going to say fall too, because it was, it didn't sound like Europe 72, but it definitely was 72 through and through.
Excellent breakdown, Cooper. Garrin, you also got 72. Were you tempted by any other year?
By the way, he just covered it. That's the aesthetic template for what we just heard, what Cooper just said. Initially, and then because it's like I think I'm a little bit like hoodwinked by Europe 72 and its sort of glossy perfection. So a lot of times I associate 72, that's sort of like the template in my mind. But the reality is that because that was just so fucking raw, Jerry, like he said, digging in and just like a little bit out of tune and just, hitting strings so hard. And it was great. It had that almost like a little remnant of their garagey kind of vibe, which was great.
Nice tag team there. Cooper, do you have, is your band still going? Or do you guys have any dates you want to plug or anything?
Yeah, so it was more of just like I sat in with my friends. I will plug them, absolutely. But I haven't, I'm not in a band actively. But that is two of my friends that I went to, or one of my friends I went to come with, and her boyfriend. They are called King Bolete Band. They play all the time in the sort of just Connecticut area. They're playing at Stella Blues in New Haven, which is coming up soon. And they also play down at Roadrunner, a bunch of spots in Fairfield County. Those guys rock. They've got it going on. It's my friend Sophia, who plays mandolin and clarinet, and then my friend Mike, who just can rip the Jerry leads and whatever else. So any chance I get to have to play with them, I love it. So I'm not actively in a band. Would love to be. All I really want to do is play dead music. So that's that.
All right, overtime. I am out of songs. I'm gonna have to go to my backup folder. Let's hear it.
The joint was jumping, going round and round. Head out, reading and writing. What a crazy sound. I know they never stopped rocking. Till the moon went down. The golden sound is so sweet. I had to take a chance. Rose out of my seat. But I had to dance. Started moving my feet. Oh, yes, and clapping my hands. But no, they never stopped rocking. Going round and round. And I was rocking. What a crazy sound. They never stopped rocking. Till the moon went down.
The guesses are in. It was Around and Around at the Greek Theater again on July 16th, 1988. Garrin nailed it. 88.
Motherfucker, man. Wow.
I can't believe I got that. Oh my God.
Yeah, Cooper is slack-jawed because, that's a hell of a pull by Garrin. There's not a lot going on there. Cooper guessed 1982, so clearly it was a difficult one. Garrin, how did you pull an 88 there? Congratulations.
I'm pretty impressed with myself, I gotta say. That's crazy. I mean, that was a really, if you intentionally, because when people play, it wasn't a great recording, right? It was hissy. It was a little distant. The band sounded sort of disorganized. It's not the vibe that I associate with that time period. So if you did that intentionally, that was pretty artful. Because you know what I mean? It sounded to me like one of those like old hissy cassettes of like 83 or, you know, something like the Wild Woolly early 80s. But I heard that synth, that piano with the synth halo. So he plays the piano and then it goes,
Oh,
and I
good
was like,
God,
I don't
man.
think they started doing that until it was like the very, very early MIDI. I just said, I don't think I've guessed 88 on anything ever. So I was like, let's do that. Because 89 is like, gets to be super organized. And the 89 was just this super hot year, you know, and 87 was also very like, 88's like the ugly stepchild in a way. It doesn't get a lot of notice.
Garrin, hell of a pull. Congratulations, you're on to the semifinals. Cooper,
Well done.
yeah, what were you hearing there?
So yeah, history recording, sort of shade recording. I was like, Mike wouldn't possibly do the same year as when what? Well, that was the first one we started with, right? Was it 82? I think I don't even remember. Doesn't matter.
Like 2 days ago, yeah. It was an 82, yeah.
But like you said, the synth halo at the end, which Brent did, yeah, a lot. That like, especially like 89, 90. I was like, did I really just hear that? Because everything else, the recording was so shitty. Phil was not as he was a little bit more not muddled, but like wasn't as clear as I was expecting from something from the later 80s. In the beginning, Brent just he didn't have the same shimmer in his keys like he does, you know, late 80s where it's unmistakable. So I thought again it was that damn Charlie Miller dead piano, and I was wrong because that synth part that I heard, I shouldn't have lied to myself. That was well done, well done.
Well done to you, Cooper. Hell of a run.
Yeah, thank you, I appreciate it.
Just a wildly entertaining show. The true fulfillment of the promise of the Tournament of Champions. Hats off to everyone here. Dean, Marty, Nate, Garrin, Cooper, all of you guys were incredible. I appreciate you doing it. Yeah, and Garrin, you're on to the next round to take on the winner of Heat number 4. Thanks again for playing, fellas. For all the show links, including our YouTube channel, go to guesttheyear.net. And if you want to be a contestant on the show, sponsor the show, or make comments and ask questions, email us at info@guesttheyear.net. Thanks so much to Jocelyn for providing the prize pack. You can check out her art at ByJocelyn on Etsy. You can Google that, or you can just use the link in the show notes. Jocelyn, your role. Thank you again. Thank you to Dylan for drawing the posters. Thank you so much for listening. Thanks to the amazing tapers whose recordings made this show possible. Congratulations to Garrin for moving on to the next round. And to our other contestants, thanks for playing, and remember, it's all one song anyway.
And I bid you good night, good night, good night. And I bid you good night, good night, good night.